Welcome back to Building Character, where we figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Dungeons & Dragons. Join the Patreon for this character sheet and a whole bunch more, and like and subscribe for more heat next time you play. Maybe. Today we're building Pyro from the Brotherhood of Mutants, classic villain of the X-Men and certified hot boy. I know I give Dungeons & Dragons a lot of heat for favoring fire damage, but they're definitely not the only ones who do it. Both Marvel and DC have like 6 different fire dudes whose main thing is fire. But thankfully they're all a little bit different, meaning I can make them a little bit different in D&D too, since D&D definitely favors fire damage. Let's start off with our goals for this build. First, we need fire, which represents your life in this game. Next, we need some apparatus to get the fire started, since apparently you don't make it, you just control it. I'm thinking fire in the form of flint. Finally, and that's actually it. Fire is kind of all Pyro does. Focus is a good thing though sometimes. For stats, we'll be using the standard point buy from the player's handbook. Roll for stats if you want, just keep your multi-classing minimums in mind. Put your intelligence and charisma at 15. You have a natural aptitude for sculpting flame, but you also build apparatus to produce it. Constitution at 12, you need to be able to stand the heat if you're going to be in the kitchen. I think Pyro is definitely the chef of the Brotherhood, and he needs to feed the blob. Dexterity at 11, you don't try to be subtle or fire ranged weapons. You fire weapons, which are very obvious. Wisdom at 10, sometimes you get a bit lost in that fire sauce and will dump strength. Arson is the perfect crime for a scrawny guy, you just need to strike a match. Pyro is a mutant. We could go Fire Genasi, but we'll actually get all the Fire Genasi benefits later as the class goes on, so custom lineage will make you a better fireman than a man who's literally made out of fire. That's because you can grab the Elemental Adept feat for fire, letting you ignore resistances to fire damage, and you can treat the ones you roll with spells to deal fire damage as 2s, making sure that you're really bringing the heat. Bump your charisma with your 2 free points, take performance for your skill of choice because Pyro can apparently play guitar. Weird fact I found while researching this video, now you know that too. And build your own background for intimidation and deception to be a little rapscallion. We'll kick things off as an Artificer, which isn't very mutant-y, but we need a lighter. We also need 2 skills like Arcana and Investigation to build some lighters, and Investigation because we needed another skill. Obviously we need fire, and Artificers can get some cantrips like Fire Bolt to fire a ranged spell attack that deals 1d10 fire damage. It's the simplest, most spammable fire you can have. Create Bonfire makes a 5-foot cube of fire, forcing a dexterity saving throw on creatures inside, dealing a d8 of fire damage. It's less than Firebolt, but much better at hitting beefy enemies in heavy armor that might have dumped dexterity. For first level spells, there aren't as many that we need. Absorb Elements lets you give yourself resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage as a reaction, then add an extra d6 of that damage to the attack next round. The X-Men don't have a fire member, except for Magma and Jean Grey. God, everyone loves fire. Grease covers a 10-foot square in oil, forcing a dexterity saving throw on creatures inside and knocking them prone if they fail. That also turns the area into difficult terrain. Just dump some lighter fluid out and help Wolverine trips with his claws out. That sounds like it could be bad. I almost forgot to talk about magical tinkering, which lets you put tiny magical effects into tiny non-magical items, little puffs of smoke, stuff like that. I mean, it's just a lighter. Second level Artificers get infusions, special toys that help them make fire. Enhanced Arcane Focus adds 1 to your spell attack rolls and lets you ignore up to half cover so your firebolts can be steered slightly. Enhanced Defense adds 1 to a set of armor or shield. You've got medium proficiency and are definitely wearing something. Whatever it isn't subtle. Bag of Holding makes a bag that can hold a lot more than it looks. Just pour a bunch of gasoline inside. Sending Stones make 2 stones you can cast sending between. Though I don't think Pyro would have a regular phone plan. I see him using a burner phone. Third level Artificers can choose a specialty, and Artillerists can make a flamethrower with an Eldritch Cannon. Can also do 2 other things. Anyway, the flamethrower lets you use your bonus action to force a dexterity saving throw on creatures in a 15-foot cone, dealing 2d8 fire damage to those that fail, half as much to those that succeed. It's like the spell Burning Hands with a different damage die and a bonus action casting time, and it requires no spell slots. I don't want to do the math on which one does more damage, so when you get Burning Hands later, maybe test it out at home, because you can cast Burning Hands with your action and use the flamethrower in the same round. Artificers are funny. 4th level Artificers get an ability score improvement. Round up your intelligence and charisma modifiers since we're going to be using both of them to make fire. A Pyromancer requiring 2 casting modifiers. This is like the Dark Souls of D&D builds. Bouncing over to Sorcerer now, specifically Draconic Bloodline, since that puts more fire right into your veins. You can choose a type of Draconic Ancestor that will matter more later, but tangibly, you get Draconic Resilience, give you +1 HP for every level you take in Sorcerer, and setting your unarmored AC to 13 plus your dex. It's free mage armor and some something to take away the sting of the sorcerer's d6 hit die. But to sting your foes with fire, Burning Hands. That forces a dexterity saving throw on creatures in a 15-foot cone, dealing 3d6 fire damage to those that fail. That's about a 9 with median roll, so it's probably better than the flamethrower. Just shoot one with your action, one with your bonus action, and you've got flamethrowers akimbo. Chromatic Orb shoots a ball of acid, fire, cold, fire, lightning, fire, poison, or even fire damage that deals 3d8 damage on a hit. I'd probably choose fire damage? For cantrips, Control Flames lets you do cool flavor things with fire, changing its color or making it dance. Dancing Lights creates some dancing fire that doesn't deal damage. It just helps you see in the dark with your bad custom lineage eyes by making dim light. Light also helps you see in the dark with your bad custom lineage eyes by making a bright light in a 10-foot radius. Mending puts two pieces of something back together or fixes a crack in something, letting you weld. Not all the cantrips deal fire damage, and Green Flame Blade requires a weapon, so that's why we didn't take that. Second level sorcerers get a Font of Magic with sorcery points you can use to recover spell slots for now and do cooler stuff with next level. And we don't really need any more first level spells. Everything we need is further ahead, so Silvery Barbs. That lets you insult someone, making an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw to give them disadvantage. Then another creature within 30 feet of you has advantage. If Wolverine and Sabretooth are going at it, just roast Wolverine. Really burn him, verbally. And if he wins, then do it literally. You do not want to fight Wolverine. Third level sorcerers get meta magic, letting you augment your spells with sorcery points. Heightened Spell lets you give a creature disadvantage on saves against one of your spells. Empowered Spell lets you reroll a number of damage die on the spell you cast equal to your charisma modifier, pairing with Elemental Adept to make sure you're always getting at least a 3rd degree burn off. You can also earn second level sorcerer spells like Scorching Ray, firing 3 ranged spell attacks that deal 2d6 fire damage each. You can aim at one target or multiple, so don't be afraid to spread that fire around. Fire actually spreads on its own pretty well, generally. Fourth level sorcerers get another ability score improvement, cap off your charisma modifier. That's where your bigger fire spells are going to be coming from. The Artificer is really just there for some consistent bonus action fun. For this level spell, Flaming Sphere creates a 5-foot radius sphere that forces a dexterity saving throw on creatures within 5 feet of it, dealing 2d6 fire damage to those that fail, half as much to those that succeed. You can also move it 30 feet as a bonus action on following turns, dealing that damage to creatures you ram it into for up to a minute depending on your concentration. It's the most controllable fire, but it does take your bonus action away from your flamethrower. 5th level sorcerers can learn 3rd level spells. Fireball forces a dexterity saving throw on creatures in a 20-foot radius sphere, dealing 8d6 fire damage to those that fail, half as much to those that succeed. I mean, it's Fireball. What more do I have to say? 6th level Draconic Bloodline sorcerers get Elemental Affinity, letting you add your charisma modifier to the damage roll of one spell that deals fire damage per round. And you can spend a sorcery point to give yourself resistance to fire damage for an hour. So now you could just shoot a fireball at your feet and it wouldn't really matter. Maybe not quite yet, actually. 7th level sorcerers get a better way to resist cold and fire damage with the spell Fire Shield. That lets you make a warm shield or cold shield. The warm shield gives you resistance to cold damage and deals 2d8 fire damage to creatures that hit you with a melee weapon attack. The chill shield does the opposite, but Pyro has 0 chill, so use the warm one. 8th level sorcerers get another ability score improvement, bump your intelligence to make your flamethrower better. For this level spell, Wall of Fire makes a 20-foot high wall of fire that's either 60 feet long or 20 feet in diameter. This forces a dexterity saving throw on creatures inside. Failing that, they take 5d8 fire damage, half as much on a success. As you hold concentration on the spell, it deals 5d8 fire damage to creatures that end their turn within 10 feet of a side of the wall of your choosing. So send it around the goody-goody X-Men and roast them all inside. 9th level sorcerers can learn 5th level spells. Immolation forces a dexterity saving throw on one creature, dealing 7d6 fire damage to them if they fail, half as much if they succeed. If they fail, they also take an additional 3d6 fire damage every time they fail a dexterity saving throw on the following turns for up to a minute. Pairs really well with Silvery Barbs, since you can use your reaction to give them disadvantage and give yourself advantage on a firebolt next turn. If that DOT fire damage drops the target to 0 HP, they turn to ash, making them much harder to resurrect. They might stay dead for like a full year in the Marvel universe. That's wild. 10th level sorcerers get another meta magic option. Extended Spell doubles a spell's duration. It's a surprise tool that will help us later. 11th level sorcerers can learn 6th level spells. If Investiture of Ice is the Iceman spell, Investiture of Flame should not be a surprise on Pyro. That gives you immunity to fire damage, resistance to cold damage, and creatures within 5 feet of you take a d10 of fire damage. You can also use your action to force a dexterity saving throw on creatures in a 15-foot cone, dealing 4d8 fire damage to those that fail. That's an even better way to flamethrower with your action and bonus action, since it deals more damage than Burning Hands, and you can use it every round for a minute depending on your concentration, without spending another spell slot. 12th level sorcerers get our last ability score improvement, cap off your intelligence to maximize the damage of your bonus action flamethrower and your Artificer cantrips, since those are the ones that actually, deal damage. 13th level sorcerers can can learn 7th level spells. Delayed Blast Fireball is just like a normal fireball. Dexterity save in a 20-foot radius sphere, but it deals 12d6 fire damage instead of 8d6. Also, you don't have to cast it right away. Instead, you maintain your concentration on it for up to a minute, adding a d6 of extra fire damage every round you hold it, which would be 22d6 after a minute. Or, if you use Extended Spell, that surprise tool, 32d6 when you double the duration of the spell. I'm sure Magneto can monologue for 2 minutes before the fight starts, then you can kick things off with a 20-foot radius of 96 median fire damage. But that's also 32 die that you're treating ones as 2s on, so it's probably better, but I don't do statistics. I make fire. If I was smart, I'd go back to the 5th level of Artificer for an arcane firearm from Artillerist, letting you add a d8 of extra damage to one spell attack from an arcane focus per round. That's a firebolt that deals 4d10 plus 1d8 plus 5 with a cantrip, and you ignore resistance to the damage, and you can't roll lower than a 2. You could also learn a 2nd level Artificer spell like Heat Metal, which is not on the sorcerer list. It makes a metal thing that you can see get very hot. Anyone touching it takes 2d8 fire damage, and you can repeat that every bonus action until the spell ends. If the creature is holding that item and wants to hold on, they can make a Constitution saving throw to do so, but even if they do, they have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Since you have to see the metal, you can't cast it on Wolverine to roast him from the inside out. But if you end up fighting the Avengers, Iron Man is screwed. Double screwed, actually. You always team up with Magneto. 6th level Artificers get Tool Expertise, doubling your proficiency bonus with skills you're proficient with. That's Tinkerers, Thieves, Woodcarvers, and one of your choice. Obviously, calligraphy is the skill of the gods, but alchemy will help you get your flamethrowers going, probably. You also get 2 more infusions. Spell Refueling Ring lets you recover a spell slot of 3rd level or lower once per day for another fireball. Resistant Armor gives a set of armor resistance to damage of a certain type. That way you don't need to spend sorcery points to resist fire or spell slots on absorb elements. You can just wear a costume decked out in flame decals. If the rules of Hot Wheels apply, it will also make you faster. Our capstone is the 7th level of Artificer for Flash of Genius, letting you add your intelligence modifier to a creature's ability check or saving throw within 30 feet of you an amount of times per long rest equal to your intelligence modifier, so plus 5 times, helping you break grapples, dodge mind control, or anything else. It's really flexible and really good, a very hot ability. Now that we've hit level 20, let's figure out how viable this build is. First, you have incredibly consistent fire damage with Elemental Adept, Empowered Spell, and extra damage from an arcane firearm, not to mention extra fire damage with a bonus action every turn, and extra fire damage once per turn from your draconic ancestry. You're also great at dealing big fire damage with Delayed Blast Fireball, storing up to roast anyone who doesn't cut off your monologue. Finally, you've got big intelligence and charisma scores for big skills, making you an asset in a role-playing arena as well. For weaknesses, you just do fire. Creatures have immunity to fire, and you can't do anything to them. You're also a madman, requiring intelligence and charisma to work at your best. If you were an evocation wizard instead, you'd be able to invest in more stats like constitution or dexterity. The only reason we went sorcerer is purely for accuracy. Guy is born with fire control. He doesn't study it beyond making lighters. Finally, you're very grapple prone with no athletics or acrobatics, meaning you're gonna get locked down to do up close fighting. So pop Fire Shield and do 2d8 fire damage automatically to anyone who punches you, or just shoot a fireball at your feet. Pyro has a ton of amazing options, and all of them are fire. Just watch out for someone with more damage variety, or you could have a real storm coming your way. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe for more. We make 2 videos every week. Join the Patreon for this character sheet and a whole bunch more, and sub to Tulok and Mango for more Tulok fun.